Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Embodied Woman. Really looking forward to the conversation that we're about to dive into because I have a really special guest, Carmen Ohling. I met Carmen at the Higher Self Gala event that I recently spoke at. Carmen was another one of the speakers, and hearing her story and her journey, and then just us connecting afterwards, her heart is so good. And I knew that I wanted to have her come speak and share her journey with all of you. So, hi, Carmen.
Hello, thank you. I fully received that and it's reciprocal. So like I said, I saw you in the lobby before we even knew who each other were.
Yep.
And I could just see and feel your energy. And I just said hello to you. And so it was definitely meant to be.
It was. And neither of us knew we were even attending the same event too, which was really cool.
I know. I loved it.
Amazing. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and how you got into doing the work that you do?
Yes, thank you for that. So, I'm a holistic life coach and the founder of Flow Academy, which is a holistic life coaching certification for leaders, entrepreneurs, and aspiring holistic life coaches. So, within my work, I have the academy, I do retreats, workshops, speaking, and one on one coaching. And how I got into that was I started my coaching practice almost a decade ago with nutrition. But prior to that, I had a 16-year career in corporate leadership in the finance industry.
Mhm.
And so why I'm so passionate about the work that I do now is because, I was always the hardest worker in the room. Growing up, I learned to work hard. I sourced a lot of my self-worth from my achievements. Because when I got the good grades or made the A team in basketball, my parents were so proud. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how this works. So let's just be like the best at everything. I was in leadership by the age I was 22, and we had a family young, bought our house, and we have two kids, and we had all the boxes checked. But the one box that was missing from my life and my corporate career was the fulfillment box. And I was highly unfulfilled because I really was living my life out of default, out of all the things that I should be doing, out of really seeking and searching for that next accolade and advancement and title, instead of really understanding and designing a life that felt really good to me on the inside. And so there was this one day I was sitting in my car preparing for my team, because each day I did a team meeting and really like rah, like I was like so into leadership and I loved what I did and I was really, really good at it. And I really started crying this morning, and just sitting in my car, I didn't really know where that was coming from, because for a long time I was the one that was just fine.
Mm.
There was no, it was really like black or white. There was no like middle ground at all. Um, I didn't know greatness because I only allowed myself to be good, which meant I was never really challenged. I would only say yes to the things that I knew I would be good at.
Mm.
And I didn't really know what I desired or what I wanted and how to design a life that I love. Like growing up, that wasn't modeled for me. I had no expanders growing up. And so I was the expander for people, but I was only working to the level of my expansion at that time. And so I went home that night after crying in my car before work, and I told my partner Joel, what happened. He said, "Well, what's wrong?" And I said, "I didn't know, but I was going to work to find out what it was." And I really set off on a personal growth journey, which I'd started just a little bit, but I was really into leadership growth. Um, but what I found was I was becoming this leader, but I was hitting this upper limit because I was never focusing on my own personal growth.
Yeah.
And so instead of staying in that career, I decided to go after a dream that I had, which was to become a nutritionist. So I became a holistic nutritionist and started helping people with nutrition, thinking I was going to go down the path of personal training as well, because that's what I saw everybody doing. And very soon I realized that people need more help with personal growth and mindset than they do with exactly what to put in their mouth or how to move their body. Because
Yeah.
if you can't get that down, then those two things that you're trying to do are never going to be sustainable. So I dove into more certifications and training and work myself to become a holistic life coach to where I'm at today. But my past has really proven to be amazing because the women that I work with are high achievers. They are in leadership positions. They are entrepreneurs. And I have all that leadership, sales experience, entrepreneurial experience that working with me just like on a one-on-one basis is different than anything else because I do bring all of that to the table as well.
Yeah. It's actually kind of spooky. I didn't realize how, like, I knew that that was the journey of like quitting the job and then like diving into being a health coach, but I didn't know how aligned we were. Like, I worked in finance, I worked in accelerating women in leadership.
No way.
Yes, yes. And at a very young age, being like the youngest person in the room, and like
Yes.
everyone was like, oh, like she's going somewhere in this industry, and then we're like, actually we're gonna bounce.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I remember thinking and getting like promotions when I left my career, I was running the #2 revenue producing cost center in the state of Oregon. And like my jump from there was going to be to move my family somewhere else because that's where the opportunities, would be. So yeah, it's interesting that you say that.
Yeah, I love it. It's a beautiful reflection. But something that you said that I think a lot of women need to hear is this idea of like only doing what you're good at and never shooting for greatness. I would love to
Yes.
dive deeper into that.
Yes, yes. So I specifically remember being asked the first time I like stepped into anything. I was being asked, I was a banker at the time. And so I did like investments and accounts and loans and all of that sort of thing, being asked if I wanted to go into leadership. And I said yes with a hesitation. And I remember specifically my manager at that time, her name was Ellen, and she was the first person that believed in me because deep down, even though on the outside I looked really confident, I didn't actually believe in myself.
Mm.
And so I said yes, borrowing her belief and stepped into that leadership role. But it was still within the comfort of the same company, the same location. And I really stayed in that safe kind of space for a while. I did end up moving locations within the state, but I just knew that each time I did, it was like on my terms and I could step into it and I could do it really, really well. And I wasn't going to have to look to other people for to expand me or for advice or anything like that. Like I knew that I could do it. Which kept me only at good. Like I would always look at some of my peers and I felt like they were great. And it's like I would ask myself, and I think the people listening probably have asked themselves, like, but I'm doing all the things, like, why not me?
Yeah.
Why are they achieving it and I'm not yet doing it? And the number one answer was, now looking back on it, was I just didn't push myself into those uncomfortable situations where I might not be able to do it, where it might be perceived as society might perceive it as a failure. But what I know now is those steps, it's not like a failure. It's either you learn, you grow, or you like slam dunk it, right?
Yeah.
And the learning and growing gets you to be able to do the slam dunk. Like nobody does it at the first time, right? And so now it's like once I left my corporate career, I sort of ripped off the band-aid and I had to step into being uncomfortable because I was doing this new thing. I remember so I wanted to test out to see if I was going to be a good holistic nutritionist, right? That was the first thing that I started with. So I go to a city that is like 30 miles away from me because I knew I wanted to practice like in my city, but I
Yeah.
go to a city and I go to this gym and I find out their corporate office and I see who's in charge of the nutrition program. And this was like my first step into holy shit, what am I doing? And I go in and I ask for this gentleman and I tell him, hi, my name is Carmen Ohling and I am a holistic nutritionist, which I did not have my certification yet. And I told him I wanted to run his nutrition program. And I think he said yes to a second interview just because I was ballsy enough to go in there and be like, hey, I don't have an appointment. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. So anyway, that gym allowed me to run
Oh my gosh, how
their
cool.
nutrition department, right? And that was like, and what I want everybody to hear was like, I didn't have the certification, right? So if they're hearing that, like maybe you don't have the degree, you don't have the certification, you don't have the training, you don't have everything yet, but I had the passion and the desire because I was always into health and fitness, and I knew that I wanted to do this nutrition thing, and I knew I was good working with people, and I just wanted to test it out at this club. And I did, and it worked. And the thing that it gave me is it built confidence to step in even when I'm uncertain of the result. And I loved it, and I did a wonderful job for them. But what I ended up not liking is they were having me deliver the same nutrition program to everyone, and that just doesn't work. And
Mhm.
so I use that as my breadcrumb, as my stepping stone to get to the next thing. And I just kept like ripping off the Band-Aid, putting myself out there. I used to always tell myself that I didn't like public speaking in college. I even took the interpersonal communication, like death and dying class to get out of like speaking in front of people. Right. And now I get paid to speak on stages, but it didn't start that way. I started with hosting free workshops, collaborating with other gyms and health facilities and things in my community, and hosting these workshops, nervous as shit, like totally over planning it all, but yet building the confidence that I could do it, all on the back of like serving others. And I always want to remind everybody, if you get nervous to do something, the most important thing you can tell yourself is it's not about me. It's about your opportunity to make an impact for other people, and just like keep stepping into it. And now I'm like, like pray a prayer every day, right? Like ask God to, empty me out, fill me up, renew my mind, speak through me, send me. Where are you going to send me? We're on this journey, we're doing this thing. And it's almost like I get addicted to the uncertainty when
Yes.
when things get too certain, I guess, then that's when I know like, oh, something's going on. Like I'm probably catering to an attachment or catering to something that's distracting me from this bigger vision that I have. And so I really need to check myself. But I think one of my mentors, Lori Harder, actually told me this a long time ago, like start before you're ready. And I've always thought of that along this journey, just like start before you're ready. I did that going into that gym and saying like, hey, I want to run your nutrition program without me even having the certification. So start for you're ready will build the confidence that you need and the momentum to keep going.
Yes, 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 yes. You guys go back and rewind and listen to that answer one more time because something that I'm starting to realize with people who build great success is they are willing to rip the Band-Aid off. And they're not waiting to be perfect, and they're not waiting to be totally healed, and they're not waiting to have all the answers. They're just willing to put themselves out there. And this is like for all of you listening, like listen to her story. She literally just put herself out there and continued to follow the signs, and it led her to where she is today, you know? Something I wrote so many notes as you were talking. So I was like, I want to go into that, I want to go into this. But I think that the lead with service is so important because I know there's a lot of people listening right now who it's the new year and they want to build more success. They want to build more impact. They want to build their purpose and their fulfillment, but there's the fear. And I would love for you to speak to how leading with service kind of subsides the fear.
Yeah, for sure. When I think about every year, what I want to do, what I want to bring, how I want to expand my vision, what the calling is on my life, like what do I need to be obedient to that God's asking me to do? I really sit down and think about like, what are my deepest priorities for my life? And I know this isn't really talking about like someone else, but I'll get there. So my deepest priorities in so that I can show up as my highest and best each and every day. Because if I'm not taking care of me and what I need to be doing, then I'm not going to be able to show up in that capacity where I am so connected and so aligned that my service heart, like you could just like see it from a mile away. When I'm disconnected, I'm in worry. When I'm disconnected, I'm anxious. When I'm disconnected, people can feel that, you can feel that when someone's just trying to sell something versus someone trying to actually make an impact and a difference in your life. So for example, for this year, for 2022, when I sat down and thought about my deepest priorities, it was building my intimate relationship with God or universe or whatever it is that you believe in. But that was for me. Doubling down on taking care of myself, because I don't just want to have good health. I want to have optimal health, because the calling on my life is really huge, and you can only keep up to the level that you're taking care of yourself to reach that. And many people will never reach it because they are not taking care of themselves enough. The third thing is my relationship with my partner, Joel. Next year, we've been together for 20 years. And I just want to make it the most intimate, amazing relationship. He's my number one fan and number one supporter, and part of why I can do the work that I do, because we've been able to grow individually and grow together and support each other in our dreams and goals, have them individually and have them together. And then my last is my opportunity to serve. And so I wrote down a big vision for this opportunity to serve. And I wanted to impact the lives of 100,000 women so that they can live a life that they truly love, that they're in awe of, that they're no longer living out of default, and that they're living by design and focusing on what feels good for them. And so sitting back, then I can then plan out my year from service, right? So I know that I'm being led by something greater than me. So anytime I lose that belief in myself, I can come back and realize, oh, I'm trying to rely on my own strength. Let me go back and let me double down on what I need to double down on there, have the support system of my husband, be taking care of myself, and then building this service. So it's like, okay, then how am I going to serve? I used to try to be like everything to everyone all the time, and you just can't do that because it's fucking exhausting. And so most of us out there will be thinking about like, my to-do list too long. I have too much to do, but it's not that you have too much to do. It's just you're not clear on what it is you want. So you are trying to be everything to everyone. So once you get really clear on your deepest priorities for your life, it's not about balance. It's about integrating your opportunity to serve. Then I can integrate it. Then I can plan out my year. When am I going to host retreats to bring people together? When am I going to, contract with other women or other corporations to do corporate workshops? What are my podcasts going to be on? What am I going to do that way? And so that I'm looking at how can I fill that biggest vision of leading 100,000 women. And this year, with the launch of Flow Academy, the holistic life coaching certification for leaders, entrepreneurs, and coaches, it's further fulfilling that vision, because I'm teaching others how to do what I do, and we're just creating this massive ripple effect in the world. And so to answer your question in one simple answer is, how do you lead from a service heart? You have to get really, really clear on what's important to you and how you're going to show up, and try to eliminate the roadblocks for you showing up as your highest and best, which are usually some sort of attachment or distraction that you just keep coming back to, and then just double down on it. I'm focused in on speaking. I'm focused in on my podcast. I'm focused in on retreats. I'm focused in on coaching. I'm focused in on Flow Academy. And you just repeat it. And then if you get asked to do something that isn't aligned with your deepest priorities or where you're going, your focus, your plan, your strategy based on that, then you just kindly say no. And it maybe is not for forever, but just for right now, because I really think that we could do it all, just not all at the same time.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This was like my learning lesson of 2022, my biggest learning lesson.
Was it? Tell me.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So that desire to want to do it all. Are you into human design?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm a manifesting generator. So I've got a lot of passions, a lot of interest, a lot of energy to do a lot of things. And in 2022, I thought that scaling meant doing more. And so I was like, okay, I want to, have this and I want to have that and I want to create this over here and then I want to create that and then I want to host a conference and I want to, and it's just like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what was sticking. And ultimately, over the summer and fall of 2022, and I think a lot of people were experiencing this, was this crumbling of everything that they thought was supposed to be. Like like the plan started to just like, wait, what's happening? It's falling away. Why am I getting guided over here? Why is this falling apart? And that was happening to me. And I realized that it was because I was doing too much, and that to actually scale forward, I needed to scale back what I was doing.
Yeah, I feel that. I've done that so many times too. And I think it goes back to that original thing we were talking about, is we can be good at all those things. And do we have the physical capacity to do all of those things? Yes, we do, or else we wouldn't be doing what we're doing, because we're high achieving women. But at what cost?
Yeah.
And it's at the cost of being great at something, and at the cost of our health, at the cost of our relationship. Just being in that chronic nervous system activation all the time, just because we're capable of it. I mean, I operated in that all the time. Like that was I didn't know any different. When I started like resting and slowing down, at first I was like, gosh, I'm so tired. But I was like, oh, this is actually what inner peace feels like.
Yeah.
I don't actually have that like thing in my chest all the time that is like this anxious feeling pushing me to go and do all the things all the time.
Yeah.
Like I can be calm and peaceful and joyful and excited and energized at the same time. What is this?
It's so true, that feeling of like, if I'm not, if I feel calm, then I'm not doing enough. I've had that exact realization. And it's just not true. And I think that what you said of like, be very clear and very specific. So you guys, like, this is an actual practice that you can do now that we're at the time of listening to this in 2023. Like, get super clear on what you call, Carmen, is your deepest priorities. I love that. And then you also use the word, which I loved, was, what do I need to be obedient to? And I think that that's actually, I've never heard it been said in that way, but I'd love for you to dive deeper into like that full devotion to what your priorities are.
Right. Yeah. So oftentimes we want something and we get really clear on it, and that we set a plan for that, but we end up not keeping commitments to ourselves. And we end up going back on old coping mechanisms, old ways to do things. And then we're just back to producing busy work that doesn't actually move the needle. And so like the leaders and entrepreneurs that I work with, oftentimes they have reached a level of success that outwardly looks really good. And on paper it does too, I mean, I know that I was there, when you're like, oh, you get over 6 figures in your corporate career and you're doing great and all of these things. But what happens is that we haven't done the personal growth to really understand what commitments, disciplines, and systems we really need to have in our life to be able to get to the next level. And this is something that nobody really talks about, because I mean, if I say the word be obedient, be disciplined, have a system, that's not sexy, that's not fun. And society tells us if something's not fast, fun, and easy, then it's not for us. Right? That we just like give up when we give up too easily. And so let me give a really specific example to understand how you can use your deepest priorities and your opportunity to serve, and like how to be obedient to something. So I was bumping up against my upper limit at the end of 2021. And so I was really sitting down, and I have this intuitive strategic planning and visioning and dreaming where I drill down on my deepest priorities, like I talked about, and then outline my opportunity to serve and what that's going to look like, and forecasting and all of that. And I also sit and ask for guidance, which you have to have stillness, you have to have space, you have to have capacity to be able to do this. And I kept hearing for a while, and I was ignoring it, that everything that you desire is on the other side of alcohol. And
Ooh.
yeah, right. So all these dreams and all these goals and all these big visions are on the other side of alcohol. And so growing up, like I was always like the partier or whatever, like, I would drink and that sort of thing. And it's not that like 2021, like I was over drinking or anything, maybe a few cocktails here or there. But what I've really come to find out is when I drink, it pulls me away from my alignment, from my flow. Like I can't hear God anymore. I have lower energy. My creative capacity is diminished. Not to mention, when I was 25, I was diagnosed with MS. So, like taking care of myself and optimizing, like reducing inflammation in my body and optimizing my liver detoxification. Like, obviously, that's not helped by drinking alcohol. And so, being obedient to the call of, for right now, Carmen, you need to not drink alcohol so that you can hear my guidance, so that you can show up as your highest and best, so that you can be so aligned and dropped in.
Yeah.
And like it's just been so amazing to have that opportunity. I know I joined a high level mastermind this year, and it was there was not a lot, but celebrating with champagne and that sort of thing. And I would bring my own Ultima replenishers, a brand that I love, and they have a mocktail wine. I'll mix it with club soda. But it's really true. And now that I had introduced like a couple of cocktails or here and there, I'm really, really mindful of like, what do I have upcoming? Do I have something big that I'm going to be speaking on? Am I working to create something right now?
Yeah.
Because I know that with that guidance, being obedient to that means that even though it's New Year's, or even though other people are doing this, I have this opportunity to serve that I don't want to diminish by not being obedient to what I'm being asked to do. And
Yeah.
that's to stay aligned and stay connected. And alcohol just takes that from me. So
Yeah.
I hope that example is helpful. That obedience could be around anything, maybe financial stewardship. Usually it's the places that we're ignoring that we already know the answer to. Most answers that we're seeking outside of ourselves for an answer to, we already have the answer. It's within us. We already know it. It's just hard.
Yep. It's just hard. I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of amazed. We were definitely supposed to have this podcast and just to meet in general, because 2021, I had a very, very similar, I guess it was in 2020, but I knew that I was supposed to stop drinking alcohol. And same thing, I wasn't a drinker. Like I would maybe have a glass of wine here and there, but I went 365 days without drinking
Oh,
because
wow.
I knew that I was supposed to. I don't know
Yep.
why. I just knew that I was not supposed to drink. And I would say that 2021 was one of the most beautiful and expansive years and connected and grounded years of my life. And it wasn't easy. It was really hard, especially moving to a new city and meeting new people. And our what what a lot of people interact with is alcohol. And to be like, oh no, I'm not drinking this year. Like it was hard, but my commitment to myself and my commitment to my service always had to come first. And I think that that's the how, is like you are so just committed and devoted to your purpose and your higher self and your higher power that nothing can trump that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I love that. Congratulations to you, 365 days. Yeah, it's been such a wonderful journey. And I think that if people are like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. First of all, the two things that stop us from growth is one, telling ourselves, like labeling ourselves, I'm this so that I can't. And so that's one thing, right? And so if you're telling yourself that like you want to ever be able to do that, a way to flip that around is like just think if you did that and you communicated that to others. Others, you might feel like they're judging you, but they're not really judging you. They're just seeing a mirror reflection back to them, like wishing that they could do that.
Yeah.
And so if you are standing in your commitment to yourself, then it can inspire someone else to do it as well. And so even though they might verbally say, oh, wow, or like question you, and it may feel like judgment in the moment, it's really inspiration for them to be the catalyst in their life to maybe try that out for themselves and see how that might work for them.
Yeah, 100%. Such a great point. So something that you actually said during the not the conference, but the Higher Self Gala that we attended, and I wrote it down. I just got my little notebook out, was I think it was intuition is a data point. And I think that, so you're all about helping women and helping people in general. I'm assuming live life by design. Right. And I remember hearing you say that our intuition is a data point, and or something along those lines. I may have interpreted and wrote it down differently. But I would love for you to speak to how the person listening to this can enter into this new year of 2023 with knowing and trusting their intuition to create that life by design.
Yeah, right. Thank you for writing that down. All too often, I think I already said something like this while we were chatting today, but all too often we know the answer. So, but the answer is on the other side of the answer. If we were to fully step into that, we would be uncertain, which would cause fear. And our subconscious brain wants to do anything that it can to keep us in safety, even if it's not like saying, oh, you need to stay safe, right? And so we will find every reason and every excuse in the book to not do the thing that we are being called to do. So something I would love for everybody to ask themselves, where you're at right now, if you were in the same place 1 year from now, would you be happy?
Such an important question.
Would you be happy? Would you be fulfilled? Is this where you want to be? And each one of us has an inner knowing. Each one of us has a guide. We have this stream of well-being that like flows through us, and we can allow it or we can resist it, but it flows all the same. And so to start listening to your intuition and to start trusting yourself and start believing in yourself, I like to give everybody a little challenge, which is starting, let's say tomorrow, go with your first instinct on everything. And so what I mean by that is when you go to get dressed and you're picking out your panties, if you pick the grandma ones or the cute ones, whichever one your brain says first, go with that and trust it. If you driving somewhere, like pick the first route that you go with. Pick your first choice at the restaurant. Pick your first choice when you're cooking something at home. See how often, and the biggest thing here with this challenge is to step back and to not be a judge. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's just you being a witness of when you're not trusting yourself or listening to your intuition, and when things work out, when you do follow that first choice and that first intuition. What that little challenge is going to do for you, it's going to be building belief inside of you that you do already know the answer.
Yeah.
And taking that data point and then moving it into other areas of your life. So oftentimes the first answer that we get from the universe, from God, is the answer that we need to go with. But we make excuses because our subconscious brain is fearful of the uncertainty. And so if you can go through and do your little decisions just to build the confidence, to build that up, then what you can start doing is really trusting that you do know the answers, and stop seeking outside of yourself for things, because what's just going to happen is you're going to be constantly consuming and looking for the next best, the grass greener, the brighter, all of that. Yeah. And that's really for someone else. That's not necessarily for you. What's for you, you already have all the information that you need. You just need to start opening yourself up to receive it, listening to it, and then taking inspired action on it. So when you design a life that you truly love, you just ask yourself, like, what do I want? What feels good to me? What do I want for my family? What type of legacy do I want to leave? And then you have this big vision, which sometimes stops people because then it gets overwhelming. Well, how am I going to get to this big vision? Then you just break it down into smaller steps. Okay, well, if I have this big vision to impact the lives of 100,000 women, how I first started, let me coach women one-on-one. Okay, well, this is going to take me a while. What could I do now? And I went through all these iterations of certifications and different things and all this stuff to get to Flow Academy to be like, okay, well, now I can train like 20 women at a time. And then they can go out every year and help X amount of women. And it's like slowly taking these steps to really design the life that you truly love. But making decisions based on the fact that you already know is builds so much confidence and can really be the catalyst to continuing to design a life not out of default or not out of the need for external approval, but out of one that feels good to you and that you know that you're being called to live.
Yep. I love that so much. It's like, stop second guessing yourself.
Mhm.
And it's so funny. You guys are going to crack up at this. So I even remember when I first started my business, I made a post about this because I remember how much I second guessed myself. I would even second guess what underwear to wear.
Yeah.
I would go,
Yeah.
I would go to my closet and I'd pull out my drawer and I'd be like, should I wear these? Oh no, I should wear. And like I'd overthink it, second guess it. And it was like, why? Right?
Mhm.
Like, why am I using this energy to second guess and mislead and not trust myself, even when it comes down to the little thing like picking your panties?
Right. Yeah. And I
You
love
know?
how you said use the energy, right? We have so many decisions that we're making every single day. And most of us get to the end of the day where we're at decision fatigue. And if someone in our family or someone close to us asks us to make a decision, we might snap back at them or I don't care. Or like you're just like, oh, so overwhelmed. And they're like, oh, I just asked if you wanted to go for a walk and where you wanted to go, like,
Yeah.
and so it's like, what can we do to protect our energy? Well, why not just start trusting our first instinct and like go with that? And then we'll have more energy for like the important things that actually matter. One of the little ways that you can start protecting your energy, because it's not really about time. Everybody has the same amount of time. Time's pretty much irrelevant. It's about how much energy you have and how you're using it and how you can maximize its capacity every day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So good. Okay, Carmen, I know they're going to absolutely want to connect with you, follow you, hang out with you. So all of the spelling will be in the show notes, but where do you like to hang out the most?
I love to hang out on Instagram, so just at Carmen Ohling. I also put together a really fun superpower quiz that people can get for free, and that can really help you design your life because it'll show you like what is your superpower, what's great about it, what do you need to watch out for, how can you maximize it. So they can text me the word superpower to 503-386-2981 and I will send them the details on how to get that little quiz. But Instagram's my jam. And I'm always posting just amazing things about holistic life coaching tips, referrals, resources, all of that, upcoming workshops, events, everything so people can connect. And lastly, my podcast. So the Permission Slip podcast. It is a podcast for ambitious women that have about 20 minutes that want to listen to an episode and have a takeaway of something that they can implement right away in their life to be a catalyst for growth or change or more joy, happiness, whatever it might be. So
I love it. So you got Instagram, podcast, and the superpower quiz. So amazing. You guys, I'm definitely going to go take that superpower quiz. I'm so excited.
yes, yeah, you'll love it. It's like an infusion of human design, Enneagram, and emotional intelligence to really figure out what your superpower is.
I love it. Well, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you for speaking your truth and providing so much value to the embodied woman. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure you connect with Carmen and share it with someone you love. And we appreciate you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much.